And lastly, I would like to introduce Walter Link to the stage. Walter leads Now Partners Foundation, Now Investment Partners, and Future Economy Forum that helps to advance innovation and implementation, policy and finance solutions for regenerative forms of agriculture, forestry, and beyond. He will reflect on today's conversations and share with us inspiring examples for how to translate all the ideas that we've been discussing into concrete outcomes. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And I think at the end of this first day, let's give a big hand of applause to the organizers who have worked so hard to make this happen. The organizers asked me to talk about true benefit because I think a lot has been said about the very important, crucial contribution of the true cost movement. And at the same time, we also know that it faces, especially at this very moment, a lot of political obstacles. And I think it would be good for us also to spend these days to see how can we practically overcome these political obstacles, because we operate in a very different environment now than even a year ago. Part of proving and improving our political chances is also to demonstrate how agroecology and other terms that are used for similar practices can be a major contribution that already works today at scale and that can be significantly scaled even into a new mainstream of agriculture. And I will give an example of where we are already on the way to that in a moment. And I think we need to demonstrate that agroecology also means innovation, innovation that truly integrates the intelligence of nature and human beings combined with other forms of technology. And as a result, we can actually deliver food security, because as one of the fundamental criticisms of agroecology, organic agriculture and so on, it just cannot deliver food security, and therefore we need chemical farming because that's the only way. And then if we want to improve with innovation, then it's more drones and satellites and all kind of very useful innovations. But if they are not agroecologically based, they will take us faster in the wrong direction. And so we need to prove that we can not only increase quality and diversity of food, but also quantity, because that is what a lot of people are looking at. We may not like to talk about yields and productivity in terms like that, but that's what the rest of the world is looking at. And when we were hearing Tim Crosby earlier today, he said we have to find a unified language. I don't think we, unfortunately, will achieve that. The world speaks with many languages, not only in agroecology, but around everything. We have to listen through the language and also hear the intentions of other people, even if they use terminologies that we may not like. We won't get everybody to speak the same language, but we can align around concrete outcomes on the ground, because when farmers are farming together, it doesn't matter what language they speak, they understand each other. And I think we need to develop that same understanding across all stakeholders so that we can align as one movement and achieve scalability. Now, I promised that I'm going to tell a story of scalability to the new mainstream. And we had, of course, already the very dynamic presentation of Swati, who is also the international director of the Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming. And that built on a grassroots movement of 100 million organized women. And you could see in her energy what kind of empowerment that delivers in India. When you meet these women, it is an amazing force of nature and an amazing force of innovation. Imagine we have there already 1 million farmers that are a huge living laboratory supported by the government and cutting-edge research, scientific and on the ground. And it continuously innovates, and therefore it actually developed a methodology that is much more productive than chemical farming, and at the same time it is much cheaper. So the result is that farmers are making much more money. And this is the reason why it was able to scale from 40,000 farmers to 1 million in only 8 years. And now it is on the way to deliver growth to become 4 million farmers by 2030, which means it will be 65% of all farmers in Andhra Pradesh, which I would say qualifies as the mainstream. So it's possible. And Andhra Pradesh is an amazing, I would say, country. It is a state that has over 50 million inhabitants. It has a 1,000-kilometer coastline. It has mountains, it has oceans, deserts, all kind of climatic zones. So it shows that under whatever conditions you can deliver such results. And I just spoke with the president of COP, who is Brazilian, of course, this year, and he was for 5 years the ambassador in Andhra Pradesh, and he's very interested in bringing also this example to COP because he wants to make this COP a solutions COP. And he said, if you can implement it in India, that is so complex, you can implement it anywhere. And this is actually part of our work. Over 50 countries from around the world have asked, after many seminars and visits and conferences like these and so forth, have asked the Andhra Pradesh approach, can you support a respectful adaptation and scaling process in your country? And this is why we co-created the Natural Farming Global, because we have a lot of experience as now in scaling innovation approaches around the world. We've been working on that for 40 years. And worked with microcredit and with impact investing and with circularity and with environmental clean tech and all these kind of things, and also a lot in agriculture. And so we are now already implemented in Zambia the first 2 harvests and have excellent results. And excellent results, I would say, not only because of the harvest, but because of the very strong relationships where the people really like to work together, and we bridge cultural divides, which of course exist. Imagine we are bringing farmer coaches to live for several months in Zambia. They have never had a passport. They've never been maybe in an airplane. They come to suddenly live in Zambia with Zambians that have never left Zambia. And we are creating teams that implement and co-innovate on the ground. And this has amazing impacts on all kind of social and environmental levels. And I think it's especially important to lift also out the social levels. So first of all, as I said, there was in India incredible empowerment for women, but also a lot of youth involved. And as the average age of farmers around the world is something like over 55. So if we don't find attractive solutions that keep young people on the ground, we will have a much bigger problem with farming. And this means that younger people want to have higher incomes. They want also be supported to develop micro enterprises. They want to have lively communities. And if you achieve doubling and more than that of the income, then suddenly you develop microeconomies and enterprises in the countryside that actually give a perspective to young people. And I think we should really look, and Smati, you addressed that also from the stage, how can we bring more and more young people to be excited, to be proud, to be farmers, to make farming again one of the wonderful occupations that it used to be in the past. Now, among these 50 countries, we are now going into 10 plus countries to start this adaptation process. And one of the countries beyond Zambia is Brazil, where I just returned and worked for 5 days with the Ministry for Family Farming and Rural Development. That has a complete commitment to agroecology. That is, some countries, like for example, Tanzania, have national ecology policies, but here you have a ministry where everybody in the ministry actually works towards that. And I can say the integrity and inspiration of these people in the ministry was amazing, because I spent, as I said, 5 days on end with the people working there. And so we are looking at how to advance these implementations and also working with cooperatives. One had 1 million members, another one, the MST, that some of you may know, it's better known, has over 2 million members, 140 cooperatives. So we are going to organize a trip as a next step of a delegation of the government, of these cooperatives and farmers to Andhra Pradesh, where in a first step, they first need to see whether they actually want to do it. And then we will respectfully engage the process of co-innovation and implementation. And we are also doing this beyond with APCNF, the Andhra Pradesh approach, with other approaches. For example, a company in Brazil called Natura that is very respected for its social and environmental impact. And you were working with them for many years. And it's also an amazing social impact enterprise. I think it's one of the biggest women's movement in the corporate world. They have over 5 million women that often come from very, let's say, not privileged backgrounds, that get training and leadership and technology, that have a great sustainable product to sell, that get microcredits, that get all kinds of supports. And of course, then are shifting the image of women in their community, just as these successful farmers in Andhra Pradesh and other countries are shifting the impression of diversity in their communities. And they have also an initiative very focused on how can economy be developed in the Amazon, where you have over 27 million people living, that if they are not having regenerative income opportunities, will continue what they're doing now, which is a lot of destructive mining and farming and herding and other kind of activities, because they don't have another choice. One of the key products that, of course, Natura as a cosmetics company and many food companies need is palm oil. And as palm oil typically is produced in a very unsustainable way. And so they took 14 years to develop a technology, an approach of farming that also integrates family farmers and multi-cropping, that has achieved 40% higher productivity in the palm oil production. And now we are working with the government and with these cooperatives to bring this innovation opportunity to them to produce palm oil in a completely different way that demonstrates that also these big commodities can be produced in an agroecologically sustainable, regenerative way that doesn't only regenerate the nature, but also gives the opportunity for landless farm workers to come on land that we provide for them in these projects. And then they can earn enough money to buy this land, or they get it gifted from the government, so that actually hundreds of thousands of farmers in the long term will become owners of land where before they were landless workers. And we talk a lot about blended finance. So I just give an example of how that works in this context. So you have the purchase guarantee by Natura. They need 70,000 hectares of palm oil, and so far they have 1,000 of this regenerative form. Many people can work and deliver this and have the income premium as a result of it. The government has free or cheap land, so that's provided. There are very interesting public credit lines that are as low as 0.5 to 2 to 4 to 6%, and they can be repaid starting 12 years later and ending in 20 years, which is pretty much a grant. Then we are also combining with this carbon credits that we developed with SECAM, another amazing institution in Egypt that many of you know, that helps farmers in Egypt, tens of thousands of them already, to transition from chemical farming to regenerative farming. And then we can bring also the extension system grants and international public and private investors. And so we are just, for example, putting together on this project an investment of mainstream but environmentally oriented investors that want to have carbon credits and some cash return from the United States and combine it with these other sources of money so that we can scale this project, because at the moment, these projects have grown only organically. And organic, of course, is very good. But if we want to develop agroecology into the new mainstream over the next decades, then we also need to think about scaling. And of course, true cost accounting is a key. And if we only could more governments to implement it as a policy, we could scale much faster. So we have to work on that. In the meantime, I suggest let's also collaborate on making these very concrete projects successful and see how we can implement them in more and more countries to serve more and more farmers and their communities. Thank you.